All right, welcome everybody to the very first episode of Loremasters, new Hearthstone show, talking about the lore behind the Hearthstone cards. We are looking to talk about the in-depth story of one card each episode in roughly about the span of an hour. And my name is Goliath the Dwarf. I am here with my co-host Blakarot, and we're excited to get this going and share some stuff with you.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Blakarot, and I'm excited to embark on this project with Goliath the Dwarf, the lore master in the community. Um, you know, I like to fancy myself as what's it called? The frazzle freshman. Coming in, hair's a mess. Don't really know much, so looking to learn from Professor Goliath. And who knows, in a few episodes, I might be a lore apprentice, if you will, right?
Oh, absolutely. Get up to the shifty sophomore and then the smug senior, preferably
Yeah,
without the smugness. But yes, we will break you into the amazing world of Hearthstone and Warcraft lore, exploring the world of Azeroth, its history, and there's even some worlds beyond that might get touched on in various cards,
that's
especially if
cool.
we talk about anything from the Outland expansion. But today we are starting with a card that has just recently come out. It's not even playable yet, part of the new core set, Aegwynn the Guardian. And I was just really excited when I saw that this card was coming out because this is an amazing character.
Mm.
And the flavor of this card matches the story amazingly of the character behind it. And so, Blakarot, why don't you just talk a little bit about? I know we can't quite play this card yet, so you don't have the experience, but from your impressions, what's your opinion of it from a card perspective?
Yeah, so this episode's unique. When we initially had this idea, we were going to tackle the classic set moving forward into the expansions as they released over the years. And of course, we wanted to mix in the excitement, with new cards. So for my, review on this right now, since it's not playable yet, with this episode being downloadable for the future, in a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, the story was always going to be evergreen. But from a play standpoint, in the current wild meta, I definitely would slot this into a Reno mage or some kind of Luna's Pocket Galaxy mage. I do like the spell damage effect. This card to me gives it what you would call a pseudo taunt, if you will. It's a high threat minion. You definitely want to take care of it and destroy it, and not let the opponent benefit off of the +2 spell damage. Me personally, I can't wait to play it. I'm definitely gonna put this into a deck that utilizes the mage spell Book of Specters. Draw 3 cards. Any spells drawn, you discard them, so that I play a lot of minions again, a minion heavy mage deck. That way, I feel like this card would benefit the most in that kind of Hearthstone deck. But it looks pretty fun. I'm excited to try it. I love spell damage. It seems to be all the craze right now.
And just for the clarification of those who might not be aware, we're talking about wild decks exclusively right here when talking about Book of Specters and such.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
but
that'll be
yeah,
my focus because over time, obviously, this statement sounds dumb. Time will go on, but for as far as like our episodes, it's always gonna be evergreen content. But with time going on, that just means the wild format gets bigger and bigger. So that's where,
right.
yeah, that's where the conversation will go for my part.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that it looks really fun. But I'm primarily a flavor guy. You're a lot better at the game mechanics than me, but I'm a very story focused person.
Hmm.
And so, with that said, let's launch into explaining the story behind Egwin and why her card works the way that it does. So Egwin, you notice the card says Egwin the Guardian. That is her title. It is a special kind of mage on Azeroth that was around for a period of time, who basically their role is to guard the world from threats from other worlds, essentially, mainly demons. But in order to fully explain that, as with many stories, we have to go way back before Aegwynn was born, approximately 2,000 years actually, to when
Dang.
humans learned how to use magic for the very first time.
Mm.
So, way back when, as I said, about 2,000 years before this lady was even born, um, there was the first human empire called Erethdor. Before this time, humans had just been in small tribes, not really any sense of real unified power, very weak in comparison to other races around. There were the great elves, the high elves, they were called back then, in Silvermoon City, way to the north, and they were absolute masters of magic. They had, this great, glorious empire. They were just the things that they could do with it. They used magic for pretty much everything. They were practically addicted to it, actually. And then there was another race, the trolls, the Amani trolls specifically, who also lived in that area, and they had a big problem with the elves because the elves had kind of built their city on what the trolls considered to be sacred ground.
Ooh.
And so there was some big territorial disputes that eventually escalated in what became known as the Troll Wars, where the
Okay.
trolls launched this huge attack against the elves of Silvermoon City, and they were really powerful, really powerful warriors. And they also had, if you remember some of the cards from Rastakan's Rumble expansion, Loa, these great animal spirits that they could call upon to
Okay.
aid them.
Yeah.
And so, even for magical elves, when you have giant, powerful magical animal spirits charging at you alongside a bunch of berserking trolls, it's not an enjoyable experience, let's
Probably not.
say. And so, what the elves decided to do was to ask for the help of the human kingdoms to the south, basically saying, hey, so right now, we are probably going to lose against the trolls here.
Mm.
And once they take care of us, they're going to come for you because you're pretty close to their territory.
Yeah.
But
Turf wars.
if we unite right now, we can drive them back. The humans were a bit on this. The
Mm.
elves hadn't really treated them very well beforehand, kind of looked down on them.
Yeah.
Uh, and they were like, do we really want to get in the war against the trolls? But they decided that they saw the logic that they'll come for us next. And so they made a deal. If the human kingdom of Erethdor would help the elves would teach 100 humans how to use magic.
Okay. Wait. Repeat that one more time.
The deal was for the humans to aid the elves against the trolls.
Mm-hmm.
The elves would take 100 humans
Yep.
and teach them how to use magic.
And this is at the dawn of World of Warcraft, the beginning of it all.
No, this is
Oh.
no, the world has been around for quite some time. This is
Okay.
just the
Okay.
first big human kingdom.
Got you.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
no.
Remember, sorry, freshman. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Other
Okay.
episodes
Okay.
that we have, will have cards, especially for things related to like old gods, for example, are going to
Mm.
go way, way back. But
Oh,
this
okay.
is
Okay.
something that this is just a more what we would consider
Mm-hmm.
maybe like paramount to medieval history or something about that far back, or just kind of ancient stuff, not primordial stuff.
Oh, perfect. I ask questions like this because this is the first thing my brain thinks of, and secondly, I know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people just like me. So appreciate you taking the
Yeah,
time to put us in the right time placement. Appreciate
my
it.
pleasure, my pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So, so this is the thing that even though humans had never used magic before, they were apparently very adept to it. And the elves were like, wow, these guys are learning it pretty quickly. And so what happened, and if you want to show the first image that we have to illustrate, this is where
Oh
the
yes.
story kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this big plan that they had
Good segue.
where in order to defeat the trolls, they lured them away from the elven city to the human city, from Silvermoon to Strom. That was the name of the city for the humans. And they made the trolls think, oh, they're retreating, we have them on the run. But then the human magi came out, and with the elves, they summoned this huge, colossal fireball in the sky and just utterly incinerated and decimated the trolls. And
Dang.
that was how they won the war. And
Wow.
that was how humans first started learning magic.
Okay, so for all the visual watchers, they can see this. For anyone listening on audio, definitely hop over to YouTube and check this out. So, in this war, the humans agreed to help the elves only if prior to the war that elves taught 100 humans magic.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the image of the fire, their hellfire they rain down on the sky. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's like their graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
But yes,
I'm trying to go to that
yeah.
school. Damn.
And then those humans eventually were able to teach other humans how to use magic, and so on and so forth. And you have a lot of people who know how to use magic now. Just one little problem is that people tend to get superstitious by nature of things that they don't understand. And over time, even though human civilization was able to expand rapidly after this, because all of the mages were able to use their magic to basically keep people safe. New cities could get formed, trade routes, civilization bloomed very fast, much faster than we have in the real world, because they had magic to protect them from all the dangers of the wild. But in spite of all this, people began to get a little superstitious and wary of these mages, and they found themselves the object of public scrutiny. And that is where the city of Dalaran comes in, because Dalaran decided that, hey, we're going to become a sanctuary for mages. So all of you guys who are a bit worried about people maybe looking down on you or being afraid of you and persecuting you because you know magic, well, you can come here, you can practice magic in peace, and it's going to be great because we're going to benefit from it, you'll benefit from it. And that's basically what happened. Dalaran became this amazing, magical city full of wealth and commerce because they
Looks
were able to
beautiful.
keep everything safe. Yeah, this is long before it became a floating city. It was initially
Yeah,
just
it's
a
also
regular
attached to the
city.
ground.
Yes, yes, that didn't come until much, much later.
So,
But
real quick. So,
yeah,
when you use the term mage, this is a human who got taught magic by the elves.
a mage is anyone of any race who uses what we call arcane magic.
Got
It's
it.
basically the power of order in the universe. If you are at all familiar with like a Dungeons and Dragons wizard class,
Mm-hmm.
basically the idea that this is something that you study, that it's like the laws of the cosmos that you can, if you study and understand it, then you can manipulate it to your will.
Got it. Okay.
It's the very intellectual kind of magic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
And so but the thing is that it also lends itself to chaos pretty easily. You can easily overdo it.
Ooh.
And in Dalaran, there were so many people doing such powerful arcane spells that they kind of accidentally drew the attention of demons from a dimension called the Twisting Nether. Because when you have a ton of arcane magic just shooting out, it kind of tears a hole in reality a little bit and is like this big spotlight zooming out. So all the demons say, hey, there's a bunch of magic over there. Let's go get it. And that's not good.
Yeah. Kind of like. Sorry, this is where I got to get ghetto and hood. You know, when you live in inner city and like you got the lights on at night and the mosquitoes and everything comes to your porch like that.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
the
Okay.
mosquitoes and
The
moths and
moths and
all
all
of
that.
the reason you don't want your porch light on too late.
Yeah. So not to be lame, but kind of liken it to that. All this arcane magic flying around and demons are like, "Yo,
Basically,
what's going on
yeah.
over there?" Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
And so what happened was that there were some demons who started sneaking into Dalaran through these rifts and infiltrating and causing a lot of problems. And when the mages realized that, they said, okay, we have to figure out how to deal with this problem, but also keep this on the down low because our whole thing here is that this is a place where mages are not discriminated against.
Yeah.
And if people learn that there are demons as a side product of this, there's going to be discrimination again. So they went to the elves who taught them magic in the first place, and together they all decided, okay, we can't ban them from using magic because they're just going to do it anyway, and they're just going to cause problems elsewhere if it's all non-controlled, and we can't tell them to limit it. So what they did was they formed a secret order called the Tirisfal Order, because they met in a forest called Tirisfal Glades, and they're like, hey, what should we name our order? How about the place that we're meeting right now secretly?
Yeah.
Not
sense.
the most creative, but it makes sense. And what they are a secret order of mages that dealt with the demons when they came in, so that all the problems were taken care of, and really no one was the wiser, and mages could continue doing their thing. In order to have to fight against very powerful demons, what they decided to do, they developed an ability where several mages could infuse their own power into a single individual. And that individual was sometimes known as the spearhead, where everyone had to be in close proximity, but you had one super buffed up individual who could go toe to toe with a really powerful demon.
Okay.
But then one day they went up against this demon that decided to he outsmarted them, because instead of going for the big powerful guy, he went and picked up all the mages that were feeding the power and basically cut off his magic source and was able to beat them all. So then what they realized was that the way to do this was to permanently infuse their power into a single individual, so that that couldn't happen again.
Got it.
And that individual became known as the Guardian. This one mage who has the power of a ton of other super powerful mages fused into them. So they are like the most powerful being on Azeroth to single-handedly defend the world from any demons or other entities from other planes that can cause problems.
That's pretty sweet. Okay.
Yeah. And what would happen, they would serve for about 100 years, because magic can lengthen their lifespans here. And so after about a century of service, some of them would die, some would retire peacefully, and the power would get passed on to a new guardian.
Yeah.
And eventually, after about 2,000 years of this, Aegwynn was the guardian, the first female one. And awesome. She was a rambunctious student. She was very mistrustful of authority by nature. She was a bit of a rebellious teenager, but she had a lot of talent. She had a lot of dedication to protecting the world. And so they decided that she would make the best guardian. Now, one of the things that she did as guardian was she discovered this arcane entity known as a Luneth, and bound the entity into a staff, which is another Hearthstone card, a weapon from the Kobolds and Catacombs expansion. And so that is basically this sentient entity of arcane magic that she managed to basically stuff into a magic staff to be able to use, which that's pretty impressive, honestly.
Very impressive.
Yeah. And
is this Aluneth Aluneth that she's holding in her Hearthstone card?
Yes, that is correct.
Beautiful.
Because it's her staff.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And so Aluneth and Aegwynn were basically, I wouldn't say a team, because he was kind of bound against his will, but as a source of magic. But she used him to great effect, and she protected the world for a century, and then she kind of decided that she didn't want to give up her power to pass on to someone else. But there were a couple reasons why.
Okay.
Because At one point during her tenure as Guardian, she sensed that there was some strong demonic activity going on in the icy realm of Northrend, which, true to its name, is way up in the north of Azeroth.
Yes.
And when she got there, it turns out that the demon lord Sargeras, who is in charge of this massive demon army called the Burning Legion, and their mission is to exterminate all life in the universe. Because Sargeras believes that the universe is fundamentally flawed, that is corrupt by nature, and the only way to solve that is to kill everything and just let it start again from scratch, hopefully uncorrupted.
Wow.
Uh,
Don't let this guy
and
clean your house.
yeah, and he had his sights set on Azeroth for a long time. He was constantly trying to figure out how he could get to Azeroth, how he could get his demon army there in order to utterly destroy it. And he was always looking for mortals who could serve as gateways to let him in.
Mm-hmm.
And this was his latest big plan.
Okay.
So what he did was he put a small amount of his colossal power, which is still very much on his own, into a physical avatar and put that through a portal into Northrend. And Aegwynn did battle with this avatar, and it was a huge fight, a powerful magic zooming everywhere, altering the landscape. And after a long time, after a lot of effort, she managed to defeat the Avatar. Or did she?
So
Because,
yeah, that's what. So this I was curious on it. If she did, we have beautiful imagery here at Loremasters. So I see Sargeras, his avatar will be coming up in our imagery. There might be another weapon coming up, right?
yes.
All right, cool. Just making sure,
Yes.
playing my part as, the image guy. Just making sure because I'm excited about this. So make sure the story's going good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So yeah, the thing is that during this fight, she attempted to call on Aluneth in order to help her, but the staff refused her call, and so she had to
Ooh.
summon the great staff Atiesh instead, which is why
Oh,
she's fighting with that in the picture. This was a staff that was sort of a heretical one by the Guardians. It had been used by the Guardians for centuries. Very powerful magic staff, not quite the same as a staff you have a literal being of magic bound to, but still very powerful.
got it.
Um, yes. And so what Sargeras's plan was from the start was that the fight took everything out of Aegwynn. She was utterly exhausted. All her defenses were down. She was focusing everything into basically blasting enough power to get rid of this thing. And since she was weakened, Sargeras's soul seeped into her own. He low-key possessed her and hid in the back of her mind. And that was his ticket into Azeroth. He now had a presence, a foothold in the world.
Okay.
And he didn't take direct control of her. What he did, because she had too powerful a will, he couldn't get full control of her. But
Yeah.
he constantly whispered in the back of her mind. And she had no clue that he was there. She thought that the dark presence she was feeling was just the stress of having the responsibility of the world on your shoulders 24/7.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you've had a situation where people say, you're not feeling too well, and you're like, nah, man, I'm just stressed from work. I'm absolutely fine. Like, no, man, you really should see a doctor or a therapist, or something's not right with you. That's basically what was going on with
Okay,
her.
I see. Yeah. It was really something next level, and she was just brushing it off, being her typical rambunctious, strong, independent self.
Hmm.
I can relate to that. I get it.
And
Yeah.
and Sargeras took advantage of that strong independent spirit and anti-authoritarian spur that she had, because she was noticing that the Council of Tirisfal were sort of like the Guardian's handlers. The people who kind of take care of the Guardian, and kind of like a mission control in a sense. They're supposed to heed the council's advice, but she didn't,
Yeah.
because she said, You guys, you're starting to get a little political here. I see you're influencing some of the human kingdoms around here. I don't quite like that. And Sargeras really capitalized on that. We made her very paranoid and
Okay.
very distrustful of the council.
Yeah.
And so this is a case where, in reality, she was a little right. The council was a little right because they're like, people need our guidance, and we can make the world a better place. But so they were a little bit in the wrong. She was a bit in the wrong, but the demonic influence turned her into a full-on loose cannon.
Uh oh.
And she outright defied the council. She refused to pass her power on to another guardian because she's like, that whoever's the next guardian would just be your puppet, and I don't want that to happen because that would be dooming the world in her eyes because she's very paranoid at this point. And she goes off and decides to make a secret hideout. And she uses a Luneth to create the Tower of Karazhan as her own personal secret base. And that's where that came from.
Oh, so me as a Hearthstone player a couple years ago, I'm really excited about this card game. See this YouTube trailer, a lot of music, lights, everybody's dancing, doing cannonballs into a pool, you know what I'm saying? Everybody hanging out one night in Karazhan. So Hearthstone really did the spin on the fun effect, but this place was actually created for a hideout.
Yeah, magical stronghold. It has like vast libraries of knowledge of all the things that the Guardian knows, magical artifacts. It was used for parties later on in the story, but
Okay, okay.
that doesn't come until much later.
Much
But
later.
yeah. So she created it as a hideout, and then the Council of Tirisfal is like, okay, this is a full-on loose cannon here. She is very dangerous because she has all this power and she's answering to absolutely no one right now. So we need to rein her in. They considered making a second guardian,
Uh-oh.
but they decided against that for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, because the conflict between two such powerful mages would kind of out the secret council because it'd be hard for people to ignore that.
Yes.
And the second part was that very same clash of powers would maybe destroy the world. You would have so much thrown around that it just wasn't worth it. So what they did was they
Mm-hmm.
created a secret order of mage hunters known as the Tiras Guard, who were armed with the knowledge and artifacts that could negate the magic of the Guardian. So, like, she has spells to conceal her identity or her location. They can counter that. If she does attacks against them, they can help to nullify those.
Okay.
So basically, I think all of the Hearthstone cards that have that this card cannot be targeted by spells or hero powers effect, what we
Yes.
sometimes call elusive, though it's not an official keyword, they basically had that. They had elusive on them in order to hunt her down. And
That's cool.
one of the most powerful and dogged and determined of these was a mage named Neelis Aran. Uh,
Wink, wink.
mhm.
Got it. Got it.
Yes. He and Aegwynn had many battles. He kept, hunting her down and she'd get away, and they had lots of banter in between. Actually, at this point, it was a whole new generation because she's several centuries old at this point. She still looks incredibly young and youthful. I just said the same word twice, never mind. And
No
because she
worries.
can use the magic to extend her life and
Mm-hmm.
keep herself young and energized.
Yeah.
And they have lots of banter back and forth, constantly trying to probe into each other's weaknesses. Okay. And so um, basically he realizes that she's not as bad as the council says. She realizes he's not as bad as she initially thought, and they come up with the idea that, you know what, we are
Yeah.
going to have a child together in order to have the powers the Guardian pass on to him, and he'll be independent of the council.
Oh, interesting.
And that child's name was
Is
Medivh.
ooh, that's
Aegwynn is
where.
Medivh's mama.
Wait, so that's crazy. Hold on, let me get this image up. I didn't realize that. Listeners, did you guys hear that? Goliath, say it one more time.
Aegwynn is Medivh's mama. Uh, he was conceived with the explicit purpose that she would pass her powers onto him. So the card says that the next card inherits the spell damage.
Ah.
And that is why I love this card so much. It has the flavor, it just passes it on, it captures it beautifully into why this character has this certain effect.
It really does capture it. That's awesome. So,
Now, there was just one little problem.
oh yeah, tell me.
Remember how Sargeras was in the back of Aegwynn's mind manipulating her? He literally possessed Medivh as soon as he was conceived while he was in her womb.
Oh.
He was born possessed by the most powerful demon in the universe.
That's not good.
Yeah, and she didn't know it as he grew up. He was a bit stressed. She's like, "Oh yeah, I felt that stress. It's just being the guardian thing. It's no big deal." And she taught him how to be a guardian. And then, but then one day, Medivh contacted Gul'dan, who is the warlock basic hero you have in Hearthstone. And he also worked for Sargeras. And together they opened up the dark portal, which brought over the orcs into Azeroth and started the whole Alliance versus Horde conflict in an attempt for the demons of the Burning Legion to completely annihilate Azeroth through the orcs. And Aegwynn discovered that, and she went and confronted Medivh about it. It just so happened that there was one of those parties going on at the time. Medivh often had parties at Karazhan in order to help lighten his mood.
Okay.
And one of those parties happened to be going on, and during the fight, Sargeras, in an attempt to beat Aegwynn, because she was throwing everything at him, tore the life out of all of the guests in the tower. Everyone who was there for a party suddenly became a ghost that would haunt that tower. So it became a very twisted and haunted place because of all of that.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then Aegwynn got blasted off to another continent because Medivh managed to take control just enough to prevent her from getting killed. But then eventually, now this intersects with Medivh's story quite a bit. That would take too long to tell all of his story.
Well, he is a legendary card, so one day.
We'll talk about him one day.
Oh, yeah.
But suffice it to say that eventually his possession was uncovered, that he was behind the orc invasion, although unwittingly, because, possessed.
Yeah.
It's not his fault, really.
Definitely not.
And he was killed. He was defeated in order to prevent all that from happening. But his soul hovered, around the borders of reality. And many years later, he saw that when the Legion was attempting to make another assault, this time utilizing tools like the Lich King and an undead army, and eventually having a full-on demon invasion, which is an entire other story in itself. But Medivh was able to see everything that was going on and realize that I need to warn these people. So from beyond death, he was able to contact his mom, and she poured every bit of magic she had saved up. She's kind of spent at this point. She's lost a lot of her magic, but she manages to raise him from the dead, and he is able to unify the people of Azeroth. Now he's not possessed anymore.
Okay.
And he forgives her. She's very quick to apologize. She's like, "I'm really, really, really sorry for completely ruining your life. I accidentally letting you get possessed from conception by a demon I led because I was careless." And he's like, "Chill, it's okay. We both got used. The important thing is that we work together now."
He said, "Chill, fam. It's all good."
Yeah. He was very forgiving of his mother, which is very sweet. And And then they managed through Medivh's work, they managed to once again drive the Legion off. Again, whole other story. Aegwynn really wanted to join him, but she was completely magically exhausted after literally raising someone from the dead.
Of course.
And that's almost the end of her story. The one last part is that
Yeah.
when Jaina Proudmoore founded a city known as Theramore, she eventually encountered Aegwynn and took her as her advisor, essentially.
Okay.
And so Aegwynn was actually helping out Jaina for a period of time. She actually factors into the as of this recording, recent Valera's Book of Heroes, where
Okay.
there's a part where assassins come and Grona is attacking people, and they need to figure out, what's behind all this, and they learn that it's a cult called the Twilight's Hammer. Aegwynn was actually very instrumental in helping to figure all of that stuff out as well.
Oh, snap.
Currently, now here's a little thing that's a bit confusing, is that there's one series of comics that showed how she died that has since been considered non-canon. So it used to be that she had a grandson, a child that Medivh and Garona had named Madan, and in a series of comics, she gave her life to protect him. However, that is the particular character that has been decanonized, largely because those comics and that character weren't particularly popular. So in the current canon, we don't actually know how she died or when. So the most we can say for certain for our purposes here is that her story ended sometime when she was serving as Jaina's counselor in Theramore, but we can't
Okay.
really say anything else for certain.
It's unfortunate.
But that's
Okay.
that's the basic breaking down the story of Aegwynn. She had quite a long life. She did a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. She made a lot of mistakes, then helped to make up for them. And as a card, just amazing flavor through the mechanics and the art, just really capturing some of the core essence of who she is, which I am really happy to see. This is something I love about a really good Hearthstone legendary card.
Yeah, man, it's really cool to hear this story. For those who may not know, me and Goliath consider Loremasters an extension of Born to Be Wild. I joined the Discord server for Born to Be Wild last summer. So to be exact, in July of 2020. Fantastic year for those who listen to this years later. Anyway, so brought Goliath on, the lore master himself, and we started to do every few weeks or so, months, lore episodes. So I had this idea of like, what if there was just like a podcast in a YouTube series that just did lore shows focused on one card per show? The content is there. We have the lore master himself. So it's really cool to hear this story and see the imagery and like know what's going on here. Seeing that she's holding Aluneth, and to know that Aluneth was like this uncontrollable energy where like she tried to call it in battle, but it wouldn't come to her. Kind of like Harry Potter with the Nimbus, and then to know that there's another staff that she could use that's not infused with crazy magic, but still powerful enough to help her in battle. And then to see the imagery of Medivh the Guardian with that staff, and then to see the Guardian and to understand what that actually means now. As a player who doesn't know lore, it's very cool to be on this side of the show and like soak in all that knowledge, and just to think about it, as I'm playing the game. Even when I'm not playing the game, it's just cool to like to know just a little bit more of what's going on here.
Oh, absolutely. I think that having a sense and awareness of who this character is can add so much more to when you play it. I think that if it's a good card that you're playing in a winning deck anyway, then it gives that much more satisfaction because you have a greater sense of this character's power when you have that amazing effect.
Yeah.
And if it's not the greatest card, then you can at the very least appreciate its existence a bit more.
Yes.
And if you feel like playing some sort of just meme deck for the fun of it, then it might be an encouragement of oh, I really like what that character does, and their effect means a lot more to me now. So, you know what? I'll just have a little more fun with this because that's a wonderful thing about Hearthstone. You can have fun in so many different ways,
Yeah,
and this just adds on one other way, I think.
that is so true. I definitely like being 7 years in. I know with more time, this idea can grow where I'm going to learn more about the lore of the game, but they can start printing cards where it's like family members. So back in Scholomance, when you came on to Born to Be Wild and you showed us the story of Scholomance and showed us that Lord Baroff and Mindrender Lucia are the parents of Jandis. So like this right here, seeing Medivh on a card that says the Guardian for X amount of years. It's been I had no idea, no clue what the Guardian meant until right here in March of 2021. So it's very cool to see the mother son combo right here. And of course, knowing me just being a geek, I'll play them both in one deck and like hopefully
Yeah.
the death rattle will go and then he's the next card I draw and I'll screenshot it and be like, look at me, I'm a nerd.
And I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of the time they like to have card interactions with certain heroes that you play.
Hmm.
So I'll bet because Medivh is also a hero card.
Oh yeah,
I think that it's very likely.
a hero portrait.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
hero portrait.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
It's okay. Yeah.
That if you are playing against someone who has the Medivh portrait and you play the Aegwynn card,
Mm.
I bet you dollars to donuts that she's going to have
Mm.
some unique voice lines,
Okay. Okay.
like how if you play Cairn Bloodhoof and the other person is playing Garrosh,
Yeah.
he says, "Garrosh, you are not worthy to lead the horde," because there's a special story connection there, which
Ooh.
we'll probably talk about in a future episode.
Can't wait.
But yeah, I bet you definitely that there's going to be a special interaction, and I can't wait to see it.
Oh man, I can't wait to see it either. I'm really excited for what we have here at Lore Masters. Going through the collections of legendary minions, and we get to talk about the backstory. And I know over time, the stories will integrate and cross paths. So I can't wait for that time period. But I'll enjoy the ride the entire way, man. This is gonna be a great project. I'm really excited. Um, yeah, I'm just overflow with the emotion here. So let me take a step back and calm down. Oh man.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoy telling stories. I love sharing all of this stuff. It's really fun, and I love the fun that I see people have when they have an enhancement of knowing about these things. There's just a particular pleasure I have from sharing all of this. It's a passion of mine. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful to have this opportunity. I think this is going to be a lot of fun as this series unfolds.
Yeah, man, and I want to ride your coattail as we end this. I'm thankful for the opportunity. I appreciate you saying yes to it. Um, with both of us knowing that you are the lore master and you will have to literally carry because of the stories, and I'm just here listening like everyone else. But also, I'm manning some things, but more of like a student, just soaking it all in. So, I will. I did catch myself before we get out of here. Some of the time tonight, like in oohs and ahs, just listening to you. And then I was like, oh, next picture. So it is very cool and unique to like be a co-host, but also a fan. So I'm in awe, man. Like I said from day one, I saw you putting Laura stuff out for out of dot cards. Fantastic content, by the way. Everybody check out out of dot cards. And I was like, yo, I gotta be friends with this guy. Like he's just so cool. So appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I'm flattered. Thank you. And I suppose that wraps up our very first episode of Lore Masters.
Yes, sir.
We'll continue to pump out episodes maybe once, maybe twice a month. We'll see how things go with that.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
you can eventually follow us on our related social media. Mike,
Oh,
where can people find us right now?
yeah. So right now we have a Twitter set up. It is Loremasters HS. I beautifully acquired this Twitter page a month or two ago, so that when we did get rolling, we had the handle all set, and we didn't have to do an underscore or any kind of silly numbers. So we're at Loremasters HS on Twitter. We will have a YouTube with the same name, and then within the 30 days and 100 subs, we can have our custom URL. So right now, just find our base on Twitter at Loremasters HS. LOREMASTERSHS.
All right. Well, with all of that, we look forward to seeing all of you back next episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to comment any cards that you might have a particular desire to see us talk about. We have
Yes.
so many that we can do. We might do some
Mm-hmm.
new ones coming out combined with some old original classics. So feel
Yes.
free to shoot ideas of things that you're curious about and would love to hear the lore about from the Lore Masters.
Can't wait. I'm really excited. See you next time, guys.
Bye.